If I tell you that for every 8 minutes a child in India goes missing, that he or she is separated from the family, undergoing a huge psychological crisis, and eventually they land up in a situation which undermines not their only their future but also the future of this very country. The crisis that we see today, where thousands and lakhs of Indian children, they go missing, that they leave or forced to leave or simply forcefully taken away from their parents, and they are situated in places where they are subjected to torture, they're subjected to exploitation, their childlike qualities in a way, they go missing along with their future. So this is a crisis like never before that we have experienced in modern Indian Republic, that we simply ignore to look into. Welcome to Shriram IAS. My name is Saurav, and today we are going to talk about the silence of Indian mainstream media, not only the mainstream media, but also all sensible people, organizations around us who simply choose to ignore this issue, that they're missing children in India. These individuals, these children, they have a varied age, varied background, belonging to different caste groups, class groups, religion, ethnicity, linguistic groups, and they all find one destination, and that is a future where simply the potential and possibilities in them are simply, they in a way they die at the very moment. तो आज हम इसके बारे में बात करेंगे, what are the possible causes for the missing children in India, what are the consequences on them, and what we can do to alleviate this issue. All the legal background of the important aspect like child missing children in India, and what the data exactly tell us about this growing menace. But before, obviously, I'll start with the definition. So, as per the JJ Act, Juvenile Justice Act of 2015, this is a very, very important law, Juvenile Justice Act. So, this act defines a missing child as a child whose whereabouts are unknown to their parents or legal guardians, regardless of the cause of disappearance. The cause of disappearance could range from kidnapping to human trafficking to simply voluntarily leaving the family by by the child, or simply they are, you know, many a times they leave their homes out of frustration, out of some ambition also. So the disappearance and is considered a child in need for care and protection until found. So this is how the JJ Act 2015 describes the missing children. Every year in India, thousands of these children, they go missing, they are separated from their families. The data tells us that most of these children, the children who are gone missing, they are coming from states like UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Northeast region, and they are going where? They are going to metropolitan regions like Mumbai, like Bengaluru, like Chennai. So these are the areas: Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, where they go to. So mostly you see this migration is also economic in nature. There is a pull factor and then there is a push factor. So the pull factor is that there is a demand for cheap labor in these metropolitan areas. Cheap labor. That's how these urban areas sustain themselves. That's how the sociology of slum, in a way, describes the situation, that why slums in these areas exist precisely to sustain the urban lifestyle. So ये जो चिल्ड्रन होते हैं, जो बच्चे होते हैं, ये भी जाके इसी इनफॉर्मल लेबर फोर्स का हिस्सा बनते हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे डिमांड है इस लेबर फोर्स की। ऐसे लोग जो लंबे समय तक काम कर सके और जो कम पैसे में काम करने के लिए तैयार हो. So that is the pull factor primarily. Then there is completely unethical, illegal इश्यूज ऑफ ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग, फॉर सेक्स वर्क, फॉर बेगिंग, ये सारी जो इंडस्ट्रीज भी हैं वो भी इनफॉर्मली, इलीगली इन एरियाज में यहाँ पे डिमांड होती है। इसी को मीट करने के लिए ये बच्चे यहाँ से यहाँ लाए जाते हैं। किडनैपिंग्स भी होती हैं कई बार। there is exchange of money also with relatives of friend. Many a time these children are lured through social media. Many a times these are love affairs gone wrong. Many a times they are subjected to physical violence inside their homes. Most of them belongs to the lower classes of Indian society. And then the pull factor is there, and also the push factors. Girls are also very important aspect here. Mostly they are forced to engage in, when they are going through human trafficking, the sex work, also as domestic labors primarily. The organ harvesting also, in many of the cases in the previous few decades, we have seen how that is also a racket which Indian state is trying to suppress in India. So all these things are there. The push and pull factors works perfectly here, and most of these children are found in these metropolitan regions. The NCRB data is very interesting in this regard. National Crime Record Bureau says only 10% of children, they remain untracked. For every 100 missing children, 10% are untracked. So for example, in year 2023, the latest data which is available with us, number of children who in India who went missing was 91,296. The number of children recovered, including those from the previous years, is 89,809. And children who are simply untraced, unrecovered, 48,800. With all those huge police forces across variety of states in India, a huge network of intelligence bureau, all sort of talks of technology infusion, integration, CCTNS systems, crime and criminal tracking network system. So all these things, if you see in totality, the efforts that the Indian state puts into, and yet there are close to 50,000 people, children in India, who are untraced, who are unrecovered. And if you talk about particularly the metropolitan area, the case study could be the Bangalore area in Karnataka. That is the area where mostly from northeast, from eastern belt of India, children are arriving in trains to simply find work. They are being lured, they are being forcefully trafficked in those areas. And they go missing for a variety of reasons. Primarily, if you look into the reasons that why these disappearances are taking place, why these children are not or no longer with their parents, the first explanation would be the economic reason, that is poverty, lack of jobs in those areas. So these reasons are the primary reasons. Second is the violence at home, the domestic violence aspect. That is also very crucial when it comes to young boys or young girls in that case. The romantic relationships that these individuals involve themselves with because of the social media. The many cases are there when the promise is to meet at some mutual location, and then the promise is not met, and then people simply flee because out of shame, out of stigma, they cannot go to their families. The families also do not report these missing places in the police, in the fear of that other relatives, other neighborhood people will get to know, और बाद में issues उनको होंगे, उनको social उनका जो prestige है, जो respect है, जो status है, उसका भी loss होता है. And then there are the angle, the crime related issues like human trafficking, for begging, for sexual work, for informal labor, bonded labor, all sort of issues are there. Most of these children belong to the poorer segment of the society who are socially marginalized, they are subjected to social exclusion, they are subjected to illiteracy. और बहुत सारे इस तरह के डेवलपमेंटल रिलेटेड जो challenges हम जिनके बारे में पढ़ते हैं, what we read and study, they experience in their life. तो ये जो प्रॉब्लम्स हमारे सामने, ये रीजंस है जिनकी वजह से प्राइमरली ये इश्यूज हो रहे हैं, और ये बहुत ही इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे रीजंस है. अगर हम सिस्टमेटिक इसके ऊपर बात करें, फेलियर्स की बात करें, सिस्टमेटिक जो फेलियर्स हैं मैक्रो लेवल पे, देन द सिचुएशन इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट. लाइक लॉ एनफोर्समेंट गैप्स, as I said, with all these huge mammoth size police forces around the country, multiple states, CRPFs and all what not, उसके बाद भी 50,000 लोग मिसिंग हैं. Children, 50,000 of them are missing. There is no trace of them at all, as if they did not even exist or existed. Data unreliability, many missing children are never reported. So missing of the case was also not reported out of stigma, out of fear, out of many other reasons. तो वो number ही NCRB के पास नहीं आता. So even the data that we are taking into that 98,000 people, children gone missing, we also should take it with a pinch of salt. It number could be almost double or triple also, that we don't know. Urban demand for cheap labor is a systematic issue. This is a simply the demand side issue, that there is a demand for these children to work in factories, work in hotels, work in other industries. तो वहां पे उनकी डिमांड है, इसलिए इसे बुलाया जाता है. और लैक ऑफ सोशल सेफ्टी नेट्स भी हैं. फैमिली इन विलेजेस दे ऑफन माइग्रेट personally or seasonally to send kids to work, also unaware of the risk that these kids will be subjected to. The life at that level is very cruel. और ये जो cruelty है वो हमें यहाँ पे दिखाई देती है. Systematic failures across हमें यहाँ पे दिखाई देते हैं. So if you see, the causes are pretty much clear. What are the consequences? The consequences are very deadly for these children. Even though Indian Constitution talks about in fundamental rights how the rights of children are very sensitive issue. The directive principle of state policy also talks about the protection of children. But yet, despite of the fact that Constitution talks about protecting this vulnerable category, we are often and very often, unfortunately, we simply lag in protecting those very rights. So it's not only the loss of childhood, the loss of future potential, the loss of human dignity to these children, but is also a loss of India, because we keep talking about what? Demographic dividend. If our demography, this demographic dividend, that idea that India is very young and hence we have a massive chance in next 30 years to take India forward economically, can never be materialized if these children are trafficked, they are put outside the schools, they are not properly trained, they are not properly skilled, their health concerns are subjected to all sort of abuse. तो पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं है ह्यूमन रिसोर्स के अच्छे होने की. कैसे ह्यूमन रिसोर्स अच्छा होगा? स्किल्ड होगा, हेल्दी होगा, पॉजिटिव होगा, प्रोडक्टिव होगा, इफिशिएंट होगा. जब सारी चीजें नहीं होंगी तो डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड नहीं होगा. ये जो डिविडेंड है इसको काट के वी शुड सिंपली राइट डिजास्टर. दैट इज द अप्रोप्रिएट कॉन्सिक्वेंस दैट वी कैन फोरटेल एज ऑफ नाउ. अगर ये ऐसा होता रहता है तो ये कॉन्सिक्वेंस है बहुत बड़ा. इसके अलावा क्या होगा? द साइकोलॉजिकल aspect that is simply are not looked into. तो साइकोलॉजिकल जो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस होंगे टू दीज चिल्ड्रन पर से, they are subjected to sexual harassment, these girls are subjected to molestation, there are all sort of things that are there, जिसकी वजह से साइकोलॉजिकल एक उसका कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस होता है. So that is also there, a sense of shame, a sense of stigma, a sense of depression, self harm, सब्सटेंस अब्यूज, ये सारी चीजें फिर यहाँ पे जुड़ जाएंगी. लाइफस्टाइल का हिस्सा बन जाता है फिर लोगों के. सो साइकोलॉजिकल जो इम्पैक्ट है वो बहुत ही यहाँ पे मैसिव है. इट्स अ बिट्रेयल ऑल्सो, एक तरीके से अगर हम देखें ऑफ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. इट्स ऑल्सो अ कॉन्सिक्वेंस. इट्स अ बिट्रेयल ऑफ इंडियाज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल विजन. इट्स अ कंप्लीट बिट्रेयल and also in negation of government of India's policies and programs. They have variety of policies and programs to deal with this issue, starting with multiple laws like JJ Act, Juvenile Justice Act 2015, POSCO Act 2012, Child Labor Act, Prohibition Act 1986 amended in 2016. There are many helplines to track children. Railway police also have in many states they have specialized units to look into these areas, because railway often becomes the means of transport through which these children are taken from one place to another. तो जो consequences होंगे ये भी होंगे. families के लिए बहुत ही negative होता है ये. Once a child is missing from your family, it's a broken family, it's a dysfunctional family. तो ये भी एक बहुत ही important aspect है from the point of view of the stakeholders. And that is why, if you see, all these efforts are ultimately there to protect these children, but unfortunately it is not happening. Why it is not happening? because of all the issues that we mentioned, how systematic failure is there, how at personal level the causes are there, and how the police forces and the administrative machinery, the setup is failing these young citizens of India because there is no interstate data sharing and coordination. As I said, mostly ये ईस्टर्न इंडिया, नॉर्थ ईस्ट इंडिया से बच्चे निकल के आ रहे हैं. कहाँ आ रहे हैं? मेट्रोपॉलिटन एरियाज में, वेस्टर्न, नॉर्दर्न और सदर्न इंडिया में. तो डेटा शेयरिंग बिटवीन स्टेट्स नहीं हो रहा, वो करना जरूरी है. स्ट्रेंथनिंग चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. चाइल्ड हेल्पलाइन, पुलिस, एनजीओज, all has to come together to make this a success, a reality. Addressing root causes like poverty, unemployment in these regions, so that they are not forced to come out of these regions and separate from families, broken in the schooling also. Regulating informal labor markets and other areas, very very important, so that these people who are working in these areas are also, they are subjected to some sort of labor rights related benefits. Then public awareness is also very important, because ultimately if the public is aware, if you know a teenager of 13 14 years of age, if you see him or her at the railway station alone walking in wilderness, so you can think of this person could be a missing person, you should report to the police or the nearest NGO or simply raise complaint. तो ये भी बहुत जरूरी है. फैमिलीज को एजुकेट करना बहुत जरूरी है. काउंसलिंग इस केस में, इन केसेस में बहुत जरूरी होती है, पर्टिकुलरली ऐसे बच्चों की. जब उनकी प्रॉपर काउंसलिंग होती है, फैमिली की काउंसलिंग होती है, जो एक ट्रस्ट है उसको रिपेयर करने की कोशिश की जाती है, एंड देन दे आर यूनाइटेड विद देयर फैमिली. दिस इज व्हाट इज नीडेड. अवेयरनेस एआई टूल के माध्यम से आजकल तो बहुत पॉसिबिलिटी है इसकी काफी ज्यादा, कि एआई के माध्यम से हम फेशियल रिकॉग्निशन टेक्नोलॉजी को यहां लाके वी कैन ट्रेस मोर सच मिसिंग चिल्ड्रन. और एक नेशनल लेवल पे एक रिपोजिटरी ऑफ डेटा बनाने की जरूरत है, जहां सारे स्टेट्स कंट्रीब्यूट करें और इफेक्टिवली कंट्रीब्यूट करें, रियल टाइम में कंट्रीब्यूट करें. तब जाके ये जो इशू है इसको हम एड्रेस कर सकते हैं. अदरवाइज दिस विल बी ए सीरियस लैप्स, ए सीरियस सीरियस लैप्स, अगर हम मिसिंग चिल्ड्रन की बात करें, क्योंकि वो सिर्फ मिसिंग चिल्ड्रन नहीं, इट इज ऑल्सो इंडियाज मिसिंग फ्यूचर. सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दिस देयर कैन बी ए क्वेश्चन on mains GS paper 2. The demand for cheap labor in urban areas had turned India's missing children crisis into a silent form of internal human trafficking. Examine the linkages between child migration, labor exploitation, and trafficking. Examine is a keyword. What institutional mechanisms can make interstate tracking and rehabilitation more effective? In 250 words for 15 marks. This is could be a question. In many other ways, this question can be asked. So definitely go for the try. You should start writing answers for the questions if you are serious about next year's UPSC Civil Services examination. That's all in today's lecture. You can join me on my Telegram channel and send me the answer that you have written on the very same channel. I'll meet you again at the same channel at the same time at 8 p.m. with a interesting new topic tomorrow. Thank you for giving me your time.